Hey everybody, Tony D here with Screenwriter's Rant on Let the Wrong One In. I couldn't get out to the Batman in time. I was caught up in some stuff. So I'm going to do this. Little Jones asleep on the couch. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out the Pineys comedy horror in South Jersey. Much like this movie, which is comedy horror, it's called Let the Wrong One In, a parody of Let the Right One In. A vampire movie. Only this one is an English vampire movie. This guy goes out drinking and he gets bit by a vampire who is dressed as a bride. And the next morning, he doesn't instantly turn into a vampire. He's kind of like, I guess he's sort of a half vampire, kind of wanders into the sun and is bothered by it, but hasn't killed anybody yet. Thinks he's hungover at first, and his brother's like, "No, you're a vampire, you idiot." See, and then here he throws up blood, and so they're trying to figure out what to do. So they call in a specialist, and he immediately tries to stake him. So, and then after some a fight where they bash up the house, they eventually team up because his fiance is the vampire. I guess his ex-fiance. And he doesn't really want to be a vampire, I don't think. So they decide to get back at the people who turned him into a vampire. So they go after them. And in the process, they're sort of hapless vampire hunters. And here's a scene where the vampire goes to bite him, and he belches in her face, and she, hesitates. So it's pretty funny. I think this could be a really good movie. It looks hilarious. These guys are pretty funny. It's called Let the Wrong One In. They're making puns and jokes and stuff. Written and directed by Connor McMahon. Let's see. Don't think I recognized any of the David Pierce. That name sounds familiar. I think I've seen him before. I think he's the older guy. Connor McMahon. That's a little familiar too. With Carl Rice, Ian Duffy, Hildy Fay, David Pierce, Mary Murray, and Anthony Head. So this looks good. This is in my wheelhouse. I like these kinds of movies. It's fun, and it's got a bit of horror in it, so the comedy. I think the comedy's balanced out with the horror a bit, because when you just have horror, it's very serious, and then you run the risk of being a little too serious, and then people laughing at it, or it's just not good enough, right? If you have the comedy aspect, then it gives you a little more flexibility, I think. Now, comedy's tough. It has to be funny, but with horror and comedy, the seriousness of the comedy, or the seriousness of the horror, I think helps the comedy. The seriousness, because there's always a very serious situation in horror movies, like you're going to die. Like the stakes are very high. So the vampires, obviously, they're often very pretentious, and they have very specific rules. They often want a lot of things, and they have great weaknesses. So, so that can help the comedy aspect. And then when you combine that with a bunch of, soccer hooligans type guys, they just seem like dopey English guys. So that sounds like a fun movie to me. It's a little bit like Shaun of the Dead, right? Shaun of the Dead, you're combining zombies with a bunch of local guys just trying to have a pint. It's that, again, that's that reality. It's that tie-in to what we can all sort of understand. Just guys who want to live their lives. They didn't want to become vampires. That makes it fun. Whereas, a movie like that Keira Knightley movie with the vampires versus the werewolves, it's a lot harder to do because, it's serious. You have to make it serious. You have to make it work. In a comedy movie, you don't have to make it totally work. It just has to kind of work, because you're generally piggybacking on something else. because the point is the comedy, not the plot. So you can kind of, I mean, you got to follow the plot, but it doesn't have to be so original. And in fact, that's often the point, right? So the title, Let the Wrong One In, is an obvious parody of the vampire movie, Let the Right One In. So you're already doing that. But, you know, for some people, this will just be stupid. This will be, it's stupid. It's stupid. It's vampires, whatever. But I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun. I mean, this looks funny. You know, he gets blood all over the kitchen. He's trying to figure out what a vampire is. I mean, it's kind of some of the stuff I did in my comic, Lester Crenshaw is Dead, which you can still see on the Webcomic Factory, as well as the sequel, Lester Crenshaw is Still Dead. So the first act, he goes out, he drinks, he ends up coming back as a vampire. Second act, his brother has to help him figure out what are they going to do, how are we going to fix this. And then this guy shows up, or he calls this guy, he comes over to kill him basically, and they end up teaming up to fight the vampires together, her being the main vampire, I think. And so he trains them, they go after them, maybe they kill one or two, and then they go after the big fish to kill the vampires before they're out of control. In the third act, here's the big fight here. Probably they attempt once and then have to withdraw and then come back again. And then there's a final thing where maybe, since they kill the lead, it depends on how you do it. Sometimes you kill the lead vampire and everybody's cured as long as you didn't drink blood, or maybe he just has to resist drinking blood and kill the other vampire. Or, I mean, there's lots of ways you can do it, right? You could say there's some sort of magical cure. You could, you could just say, well, you killed the head vampire, so you're not a vampire anymore. Or maybe he stays a vampire. Shaun of the Dead, what happened at the end of that? Someone stays a zombie, and it's no big deal. So maybe he just stays a vampire, and he continues to be like a dopey guy who goes to pubs drinking. I don't know what he's going to drink because he's a vampire, but this looks fun. It looks very fun. I would totally watch this movie. Let's see. Do we have a date on this movie? Not seeing a date. Let's look down here. Got an official website. Let's check the website. New releases. Oh, okay. This is the whole. Man, they got a lot of movies. Dark comedies. Here we go. Still not on here. Well, I'm sure it comes out soon. Thanks, Dark Sky Films. Maybe make it a tad easier by telling us when this movie comes out. I do want to see it. I would go to the movie theaters for this, because this is exactly the kind of movie I like. I could sit in the theater and laugh. But, if I missed it in the theaters and it probably doesn't have a wide theatrical release, I would totally rent it. Oh, yeah. Totally rent this movie. All right. And that's it for me, Tony D. Little Jones asleep on the couch. Please check out all our other videos on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. And we'll see you tomorrow.